know, Tina, as we were sitting here at the break, I've been thinking about that point of history where a colonial governor from England was writing back to the crown, and he was complaining because he said these rebellious Americans, and he said if you ask them who is their king, they will tell you they have none nor any governor except Jesus Christ.
Oh.
So, Rick, you know that. You've researched all of this stuff.
Yes, it's been a fantastic journey. I was determined to get as much as I could of the source document information to prove the points and to write a book. It's not for me. It's to arm. I want to get this book in the hand of every patriot in the United States.
Beautiful book.
So that they have all the, I call it my combat manual for defending our godly heritage from secular attack, because it has all the ammunition in there that you'll need to defend against all those secular arguments about our history and our heritage.
Love it.
All
Rick,
the ammunition.
take us now. While there are elements of America that are trying to bury this part of our history, there are other nations that are embracing this, putting God at the center of their national life. Tell us about what's going on in the rest of the world.
I'm so excited to tell you. We had a pastor from Iraq come and visit us last year. He had a church in Baghdad, a Christian church, 1,000 members every Sunday. Oh. And we open every session of our State House with a prayer, just like they do at the national level. We have since 1774, by the way. So I said, I invited Pastor Gassan. I said, would you, and the terrorists were coming to his church every Sunday saying, stop preaching the word or we're going to kill you. And he refused. And they were killing other pastors all around him in Baghdad, but he kept on preaching. And he was visiting America. I said, come and give the opening prayer to our State House. So he came and he got up in front of it. And we have the largest full-time legislature in the United States. 203 members in the State House there. Oh. He got up in front of them, and the first thing he said was, thank you, America, for liberating Iraq. We have problems now with terrorism and so forth, but we're still have our religious freedom. He says, we look to you, the United States, as the last godly country left on earth. He said, we know that because we see in God we trust on your money. Ooh. It's inspired thousands of us in Iraq, and we hope that you will continue. He said, but we've heard recently that you're turning your back on God in America. He said, please don't do that. You're an inspiration to us in Iraq, and we look to you, so please continue with honoring God in your country. And he gave a powerful prayer and got a standing ovation there in the State House. So I can show you that in Iraq. I want to also tell you about North Korea, because you don't know much about my background here, but I spent a year in North Korea, the only American living in North Korea, on a diplomatic mission on the nuclear power plant project under the old Clinton administration's agreed framework. Oh. So I was there, the only American. We had a lot of other foreign workers there, but as the only American, I was there, and we had to spend U.S. dollars. That was part of the protocol and the agreement in anything we did there. So I was at a restaurant. There were a couple of restaurants around our site that we could visit, and I was there one night. I was the last person eating my dinner, and there was a waitress down by the cash register and two cooks in the kitchen. And I noticed that the waitress by the cash register had a $1 bill, and she was rubbing it with her thumbs. And she'd never spoken to me before, always quiet. You have to be very careful in North Korea. They're not really allowed to speak to Americans, and I'm probably the only American she's ever seen. But she was inching her way down the counter toward me as I finished my dinner. And she came down until she was very close to me. She kept looking in the back. The two cooks in the kitchen couldn't see us, but we could hear them talking. She wanted to make sure that they couldn't hear her. And she leaned over to me, and for the first time she spoke to me, and she said, do you believe in this God?
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, with that question, she crossed a threshold that not only her whole family, her brothers and sisters, her mother and father, her aunts and uncles, grandparents, they all would have been sent off to a re-education camp. But that young lady felt compelled to ask me on a cold night in North Korea if I believed in this God. And I said to her, yes, I do. And she said, I thought he died. And I said, he did, but he rose again. And he loves you as much as he loves me. And he's with us here right now. And all you have to do is open your heart to him, and he will come to you. And she looked down at that $1, and she looked up at me, and looked down at that $1, and looked up at me. And for the first time, I saw her smile. And she didn't say another word. She just moved her way back down to the cash register, still rubbing In God We Trust with her thumbs. And I saw her many times after that. And when she'd see me, she'd give me a smile. And I relate that story, and I'm going to tell it tonight, because in the coldest, darkest place on earth where God's name can't even be spoken, the threat of saying it could be a life-changing moment for you and your family. She felt compelled to ask me about that God because she saw our motto on that $1 bill. Yes. That motto is, those 4 words are powerful, and they can change, they're changing people's hearts around the world. They have changed our hearts during the Civil War. You saw the video when that motto was introduced on our coins. They can change our hearts again if we honor God and honor that motto.
Wow.
You know, we
Yes,
just
yes, and
we had a guest
amen.
on this show, Bruce Pelkey, who
Yes.
traveled to the Soviet
Oh,
Union more than
yes.
30 times on all kinds of missions. But one of the and had a chance to speak to a prestigious body, and the head of that body told him, he said, before the revolution, he said, if there was a shopkeeper who was honest and fair in his
yeah.
dealings, we would say of him, he has Christ in his heart.
Amen.
And he said, and now you folks are telling us that's what we need again. I think of what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, you know, the one-man wrecking crew of the Soviet Union, that he said if he were asked to explain the reason for the ruinous revolution that almost destroyed Russia, he said, I've interviewed hundreds of people. I've written 7 books. I've read hundreds of other books. And he said it, but I could not put it more accurately or succinctly than to say, men forgot God.
That's right. That's right. If you have time for one more story, I want to
Yes,
tell you something that's
please,
really
Rick,
important.
talk
On the
to
front of
us.
my book, you'll see here, this is the first prayer in Congress. There's a picture there, the Reverend Jacob Duché, September 1774. Before Congress met, they met in the Independence Hall. They met in Carpenter's Hall, right behind that. And I teach, so I take my students down there, and I would show them that's where the first prayer in Congress was held. We've been doing it ever since, in 1774. So I was going to take a picture of that famous prayer they had a big painting. Oh, it's huge, 15 by 10 feet painting of that, famous painting of that. I wanted to take a picture of it to put it in my book. So I go down to Carpenter's Hall. My wife and I are in Philadelphia, and I walk in, and I'm looking around, and I said, where's the painting of the first prayer in Congress? And they said, and it was gone. And I said, well, where is it? And they said, well, you know, we redid our displays, and it was controversial. It had God in it and everything, so we took it out. And I said, what do you mean you took it out? And that's what this building is famous for. There's nothing else here. There's some muskets on the wall, but you can see muskets anywhere. This is the first prayer in Congress. And he said, hey, our board of directors just said to take it out. And I tell you that again because it's emblematic of what's going on in this country. There are people trying to erase every vestige of our godly heritage. One by one, those things are disappearing as if they never existed. And unless we stand up and defend our godly heritage, someday our children and grandchildren won't even know that we had one.
Right. Oh.
Isn't that the whole
Rick.
premise of 1984, that you just erase the past, and so you erase people's memory of who they were, or what they were, or where they came from?
Wow.
Yes.
Rick, you've traveled extensively. I understand more than 72 different countries.
Yes.
Tell us about that. Why, other than the military, was it on personal
A
travel?
lot of
or-
it was military. A lot of it was business. A lot of it was academics. I also teach college, so I took some academic trips. I studied in the Middle East, studied in Egypt on a Fulbright mini scholarship in the summer. Took a trip to Southern Africa, too, on the same type of scholarship. So I've traveled around. My wife and I love to travel. We love to experience. I
Yes.
teach international relations, so we like to experience other countries so that we can talk about them firsthand, experience the other cultures,
Yes.
learn about how people live around the world and how they worship and how they how they get by from day to day. So we've spent a lifetime visiting different countries and enjoying their culture and their food and everything they have to offer.
Tina, isn't it interesting that it's
Yes.
the most well-traveled, the most well-read,
Yes,
the most
yes.
well-researched
Yes.
that have come to the conclusions that we
Right.
are a nation rooted in Scripture, rooted in faith in God, and
Yes, Don. I'm so amazed at what God does in a situation when we plan our thoughts go one way and then he makes it the way that's right.
well, let's just put it out there. You know, the God and Trust movement. There are 550 some cities now. You other cities that are watching out there, consider doing this. Just bring it before your city council. It's you get a majority vote and it's done.
And by the way, it is settled law. The Supreme
yeah.
Court has ruled it is our national motto.
And
It is
there's-
fit to be put up anywhere, in public schools, in buildings of any kind.
and 550 cities, and there's never been a lawsuit, never been because there's no basis for a lawsuit against this.
Right.
That's right.
So
And Rick, in Pennsylvania, you co-authored the National Display Act.
Yes, to try to put that up in our public schools, because of 500 school districts we have in Pennsylvania, I put it out. You can put this up. It's legal. It's totally legal. We just wanted to encourage the schools to put it up. We couldn't get but one school district to put up our national
isn't
motto.
that something?
So I introduced this legislation. It passed in our House. The Senate did not bring it up for a vote. So I'm going to reintroduce it because next year, again, will be the 60th anniversary. A great thing happened. We had our state American Legion passed a unanimous resolution to make In God We Trust their theme next year for 2016, and they've passed that resolution on to the national convention, which will be in Baltimore next year. So you Legionnaires out there, if you're going to the national convention, make sure you vote on making In God We Trust the national theme of the American Legion. And we're working on other groups to bring them on board and celebrate and promote our national motto.
Wonderful.
What do you say to those, as Jackie Sullivan has been hammered? You're just trying to ram religion down our throats. You're just trying to build a theocracy. You want to take over America.
Yeah, the bugaboo of the theocracy. Listen, God has always been part of our government from before the founding until now. And as far as I can tell, we've never been a theocracy. This is about history. This is about honoring our past. And if you don't understand where you came from, you know the old saying, you're doomed, your future's doomed. So we have to know where we came from. We have to re-honor our past. We can learn from those lessons, how it united a country in the most divisive time in our history, the Civil War. Those 4 words helped unite our country by putting them on our coins. Those 4 words, if promoted, can help unite our country again when we're in such a divisive period in our history once again.
Yeah.
Well said. We have info slides for you here. As you could see, he is in Pennsylvania. You're welcome to Bakersfield anytime.
Boy,
Thank you.
a state just thick with history. It just
Yes, State Representative Rick Saccone, Old Hickory Shops there at 1002 Old Hickory Lane, Jefferson Hills, Pennsylvania. So, and you can contact him at 412. That was the telephone number at that location. That was your district office.
Yes.
The telephone number there is 653-1025. And
Can I say we have
Yes.
we have a website, in godwetrustpa.org. There's lots of interesting info on that. There's the video that you just saw, another updated video. There's a poster you can download for free and put it up in your schools or in your government buildings. It tells the history of it on there. You can download that. I've made it available. There's some other interesting information about In God We Trust. So go to ingodwetrustpa.org and you can find out more about our motto.
And this book, Rick, God in Our Government. Where can people get this?
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It's out there. If you Google that, you'll find that. It's a great reference for you.
Excellent. Wonderful.
What a wonderful visit to our city, Rick. We're so
Yes.
glad you've come and sharing what you're sharing. And I know many will be looking forward to your presentation tonight.
Excellent.
And
I'm ready to give it.
boy, I'm telling you, you are kicking us all in the derriere to get going on this. So.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting me.
Okay. Thank you for staying with us. When we come back, we will hear from It's Never Too Late.